हम लोग ये स्पेस अब शुरू कर रहे हैं और ये स्पेस कैलिफोर्निया के एंटी कास्ट बिल SB 403 को लेकर है। और इसमें इसका क्या इम्पोर्टेंस है ग्लोबल एंटी कास्ट मूवमेंट के लिए और डेमोक्रेसी के मूवमेंट के लिए, सोसाइटी को डेमोक्रेटिक बनाने के लिए किस तरह से ये आगे बढ़ रहा है, कहाँ तक ये पहुँचा है, ये सारे डिटेल्स के लिए कई सारे दोस्त हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगे। सबसे पहले मेहमान के तौर पर हम आना की चेयरपर्सन माया कामले को इनवाइट मैं कर रहा हूँ। नाउ दिस स्पेस इज ऑल योर्स माया कामले जी।
जय भीम दिलीप जी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ऑर्गेनाइजिंग दिस स्पेस हमारे लिए। और मैं सभी सुनने वालों को हार्टिएस्ट कंग्रेचुलेशंस देना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि आप सब की वजह से और ये जो एफर्ट है कैलिफोर्निया में हम कर पाए हैं। तो कैलिफोर्निया का जो SB 403 बिल है, इसके बारे में मैं कुछ बताना चाहती हूँ। SB 403 जो बिल है, इट इज अ बिल टू ऐड caste एज ए प्रोटेक्टेड कैटेगरी। मतलब in the law here there are various kinds of protected categories to keep track of the inequality that happens and make sure that there are certain protections given to people so that the inequalities can go away. And it can be inequality concerning to race, concerning to gender, so on and so forth. So उसमें caste को भी अभी ऐड किया जा रहा है एज ए प्रोटेक्टेड कैटेगरी। और हम पहला स्टेप जो रहता है सेनेट जुडिशरी कमेटी का, जहाँ पर सारे जो ये जो कमेटी होती है, यहाँ पे सारे एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, लॉ मेकर्स हैं, जो सेनेटर्स बन चुके हैं, वो इस बिल को रिव्यू करते हैं और वो प्रोज एंड कॉन्स बताते हैं, ताकि फिर दूसरे सेनेटर्स उनके ये कमेटी का सुझाव जो है वो उसको मानते हैं। तो इस कमेटी में 11 मेंबर्स थे और उन 11 मेंबर्स में से 8 मेंबर्स प्रेजेंट थे सेनेट जुडिशरी हियरिंग में। सेनेट ने दोनों साइड्स को सुना, मतलब हमारी आवाज भी सुनी। हम बोल रहे थे कि बिल ऐड होना चाहिए, बिल में कास्ट ऐड होना चाहिए, और हम फॉर में थे इस बिल के, क्योंकि जब कास्ट एज अ प्रोटेक्टेड कैटेगरी ऐड होता है तो हमारे अगेंस्ट जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है, जो सटल हो सकता है, जो एक्सप्लिसिट भी हो सकता है, टेक कंपनियों में हो सकता है, जो घरों जो आपके सोसाइटीज या नेबरहुड्स में हो सकता है, बच्चों के साथ स्कूल में हो सकता है। तो ऐसे जगहों पर जहाँ पे डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो सकता है, ये अगर डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता है तो हमें एक साधन मिलता है कास्ट एज अ प्रोटेक्टेड कैटेगरी ऐड करने के बाद कि हम उसको रिपोर्ट कर सकें। एंड नाउ व्हेन वी रिपोर्ट, then because caste is a protected category, there is awareness, लोगों को पता होता है, HR departments को पता होता है what caste is and what kind of discrimination happens. They also have awareness trainings that they give to employees. तो ये basically to protect more caste based discrimination, as South Asians are growing in US. This bill was to more of to protect the discrimination, and if the discrimination happens, there will be a way to deal with it. People will be aware on how to deal with it, and there will be a law to understand and deal with it. So that's why the committee heard both sides. They also heard the opposition, but 8 of the members, जो 8 के 8 members थे, जो present थे, जो experts है ऐसे चीजों में, ऐसे bills में, उन्होंने सारे लोगों ने हाँ बोला कि caste इस बिल में, ये बिल में जो caste ऐड करने का है, उन्होंने सभी ने हाँ बोला। और हम अभी अपने नेक्स्ट स्टेप की तरफ जाने के लिए तैयार हैं, बिकॉज ये यूनैनिमस यस था अपने लिए, विच इज अमेजिंग. सो ये अमेजिंग विन होने के लिए बहुत सारे लोगों ने टाइम, एनर्जी, जिस तरीके से कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते थे, टैलेंट, जिस ट्रेजर जिस तरीके से कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकते थे, हर तरीके से कंट्रीब्यूट किया. स्पेशली विमेन ने, स्पेशली विमेन लीड कर रहे हैं, फोकस थे हमेशा से. उनके पास वो एक गोल था कि ये बिल हमें सेनेट जुडिशरी कमेटी के थ्रू से निकालना ही है. और मैं कुछ अपने विमेन लीडर्स को अभी बुलाना चाहूंगी, और इसमें नए विमेन लीडर्स भी जुड़े हैं. जो मैं देख रही हूँ, नए 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 एज ग्रुप के, नए बैकग्राउंड्स के, हर जगह से विमेन लीडर्स का कंट्रीब्यूशन इसमें बहुत अच्छा रहा है. So, and I would like now to let Tanuri speak. She is based out of California. She knows the in and out of California, and she has been an amazing leader in the whole process. We also have Raina on the call, and maybe Shahira will also join this call. And these people have really led the movement ground up. So I would like to now invite Tenmori to speak. Tenmori, if you are there, can you please request to speak so that I can make you a co-host? Okay. Raina, in that case,
I think we'll lost
we lost her.
connection with Tinmoy.
Yeah.
So uh,
Okay. I
if
will
anyone
I will
else,
let
yeah,
Raina speak then. In that case, I'm requesting Raina.
right.
Raina, are
Turn
you able
left onto Franklin Street, then arrive at your destination.
Raina, are you able to hear me? Raina, I am sending you an invite to speak. Okay, I think we have Tanuri. Yeah, Tanuri, if you want to go ahead and speak, I was just inviting you to speak. So, uh, if you can go ahead
I
and
think Tinmoy is
unmute.
in.
Yeah,
Yep, yeah, Tinmoy is in. I think so. Tinmoy, please go ahead.
go
Oh,
ahead and
sure.
speak.
So J
Space
Beam
is now
and
yours.
J Beam and J Savitri and J Gurudev, everyone. It's been such a remarkable thing to be able to share this very first step, but really significant win as we move forward on getting this bill through in California. And, I think for, just building off of what Smita mentioned, is that, in many ways, this bill is a result of 20 years of organizing in the state by caste oppressed people. And people may not know how long of a history that there's documentation of caste discrimination here, but there is a very long one. And it starts in the 1990s with this landlord named Lucky Bali Reddy in Berkeley, California, who trafficked 300 workers, including 20 young Dalit girls, the youngest of which was 13, to be his sex slaves. And that case really rocked the city of Berkeley and California. And because of the conviction in that case, we got the first trafficking laws and some of the first conversations related to caste in criminal law as a result of it. But that case was really just the tip of the iceberg. And I think what's so important for people to know, especially for our global listeners, is that when that case happened, there were lots of protests. But these weren't protests to defend those Dalit workers and those young Dalit girls. These were protesters to support this disgusting man who treated Dalit people so terribly and was grooming and sexually molesting these young girls who were his sex slaves. And think about the fact that at that time, every major Indian American organization and association wrote in defense of this perpetrator. That is how deeply casteist our community was then. And as we look to where we are now, we have made progress as a broader South Asian community. We went from caste doesn't exist, there are no Dalits here, let's not air our dirty laundry, which was some of the conversations that were happening in the 1990s, to a broad consensus in the South Asian community recognizing caste is here, there is severe discrimination, and we need a remedy for this in the law. And I think that coalition building, that information gathering, that was the work that Dalit feminists have led for 20 years. And we could not have a bill without that foundational work. And that's why we have so many powerful allies who are flanking this movement. So we have folks like the South Asian Bar Association of America, which is the legal voice of the of South Asians in the United States, weighing in favor of caste equity. We also have numerous racial justice and Asian American groups that have weighed in, like the Stop AAPI Hate Coalition and other institutions like the Asian Law Caucus. Critically, we also have all of the major unions in the state, including the California Labor Fed, which represents teachers and all SEIU and other major unions, as well as the Alphabet Workers Union and uh, the California Faculty Association, the largest academic faculty association in the country. So we are able to build this level of power because we have the law on our side. We have the truth of our testimonies, and there's been heartbreaking testimonies of caste in California. And we also have a flanking movement that is just giving us the wind behind our backs on this issue. And all we have to do is stay committed to that path of the Constitution and the example of Dr. Ambedkar. And I also want to say one thing that is so significant about California is that the largest caste oppressed community here is the Ravadasya community. They're also one of the oldest, and they are driving this campaign and they know that the world is watching and that we are in joy at the way that they're turning California into a Begumpura. And, there are incredible leaders like Nirmal and Renu and Vinod and Deepak and Pavan and Naresh and so many people. This is not a movement led by one person. It is a movement led by all of us. And I know it can feel like, what is the big deal? Like what's happening in the US? We have tremendous problems in South Asia, which we do. And this work is never meant to, supplement all the really necessary work that's needed to continue to fight for our rights back in our homes. However, the thing that is so shocking, what we are seeing in North America is in a place where there's no reason to continue caste, is that dominant caste people want to preserve the right to discriminate. And that is something that is just, you have to really think about. Here, people can do whatever they want. They don't have to follow any of these caste prescriptions. But why is there a Brahmin Samaj of North America? Why is there a Rajput association or a Reddy association? What benefits are they trying to accrue? What kind of pathways of discrimination do they want to preserve? And that's the incredible thing about this bill. is that this bill is meant for everyone. It will protect everyone from caste discrimination, even the opponents from this bill, because the only people it targets are those that discriminate. And we know that there's a lot of fragility and fear that comes up when there is civil rights change. But let's be clear, the experience of discomfort and fragility is not the same as grave discrimination. And that's what our people are facing right now. We heard this heartbreaking story in California of this one woman who was set on fire when people learned about the fact that she was untouchable. And they practiced untouchability on her. So they wouldn't let her touch food. They wouldn't let her prepare food. So it was really quite chaotic. And then we also heard about death threats that were happening and people saying disgusting things like, you disgusting blackie, how dare you live here? Back at home, you would clean our toilets, you would work our fields, and you now are trying to come here. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. That's what they were saying to this poor man. And they said it to his children, his child and his wife. And then it took him 4 times to put a police complaint because they didn't understand this was a hate crime. And there's many other cases, like a father that set fire to his children, his daughter, because she married someone who was from a caste suppressed background. So he locked her and the toddler and the husband into a room, poured gasoline and set them on fire, which set the whole building on fire. I mean, it's chaos, and this is on top of the wage theft, the discrimination in workplaces, the sexual harassment, but caste oppressed people deserve to have workplaces, free from discrimination, and educational institutions free from discrimination and violence. And we deserve that everywhere in the world. And, sure, the followers of people that want to continue caste have globalized caste, but the children of Ambedkar will globalize its resistance. And that's why SB 403 matters, because what California does, it shifts the tides in the nation and it becomes a global standard because we are the 4th largest economy in the world. And that's why I'm so proud. I was born in California. I have lived in nearly every part of this state. I have met with hundreds of Dalits who have spoken to me about discrimination in many different industries. They might be farm workers, they might be nurses, they might be truck drivers, they might be doctors, they might be lawyers. It is not a question about class or the job. It is a question of the discriminatory mindsets that we're engaging in a place where we should be free to explore all of our democratic opportunities. And that's why we're saying we are going to pursue our civil rights. And it's a tremendous thing to see people who want to deny them. And I have empathy for our opponents because they have been stuck in a mindset that doesn't allow them to see that there is freedom on the other side of their fragility. And that if they were willing to just slow down enough, even read the bill, even listen to the lawyers who have helped to very carefully and craft a law that would help everyone, they might find a healing that we're already experiencing as we fight this battle. But I'm hopeful. I think that they will eventually join us because the joy and the possibility of our movement is just irresistible. Because there is something about the freedom and the potential of all people that has been lost and held captive to caste, that when it's unleashed, everything is possible for us as South Asians. And so I'm really excited to see where this work goes forward. We have never had so much unity within the Ambedkarite community across the state, and really also seeing this like multilingual, interfaith, intercaste, multiracial movement take ground. This is the work that really Dalit women have really put together, because again, we have women leaders from every religious and caste background weaving together these potentials with side by side with our Dalit brothers who are holding space to create containers for us to be able to build the intersectional movement that we need. And I want to share with you a story that one of our leaders, Renu, who is a Rabadasya leader, shared, because we have people who are elders, who are in their 80s and 90s, who came forward to give testimony. This one uncle, he actually was the last person, one of the last people to be with Dr. Ambedkar as he died. And even though he doesn't speak English, he wanted to carry the spirit of Ambedkarite power and gave testimony. Even though he could barely walk, he could speak, and he wanted his voice registered. There was also these amazing grandmothers and mothers who have been in this country for many years, and they were telling Renu about how they were like, "Are we?" Thank you, Renu. Thank you for showing us what America is really like. Thank you for showing us how the government works. In fact, for a long time, we've just been in the house and knowing family politics and making sure everybody gets fed and holding the house together. But could we really be part of a movement? Will people remember our names in history? And absolutely, we will remember that there were mothers of this movement. Renu herself actually marched while 7 months pregnant with baby SB403, as we talk about her baby to be. And that's what's so remarkable, is to see people who have never stepped foot in the Capitol, didn't know how bills were made, are now talking with senators and people with power and letting them know that everywhere that the children of Ambedkar come forward, we will stand for equity, we will stand for justice, we will stand for love, we will stand for healing, we will stand for each other. And so seeing that amazing life affirming process has been enormous. And whether we win this bill or not, we've already unleashed the elephant in terms of the power of a united Ambedkarite community. And so whether it's California, whether it's another state, where it's another country, we are going to be free. And I'm so grateful to be here with so many people who are standing with us and who are also launching their own campaigns, because what's happening in California can happen anywhere. It is time to make the world a Begumpura. It is time to free all oppressed peoples, and that time, wherever we can do it, we must do it. And just know that it is a powerful moment for us to do this together.
Thank you, Tanmay. That was actually goosebump moments, because such a great thing is happening in the US. One important thing that I also want to underline what you have said, that the all those solidarities that you have built, that is creating the ripple effect, and that is one of the reasons that we are winning. But this is only one step, and I would like to know what can be the future trajectory of this bill. What can be the itinerary, and what more we can expect in the future.
So I think what's really important to know is that we are in basically a process that could last up until September. And we basically have hit the first stage of what's essentially going to be a 4 to 5 stage process. So just to give a quick background about how government in California works, we have two houses of government, a Senate and an Assembly. And with the Senate, we have 40 senators, and a bill goes through committees before it goes to the final vote. And the vote must be a simple majority. So we've hit the first committee, and then we are now going to have a another committee, the Appropriations Committee, and then from there we go to the final vote. Each of those moments offer opportunities for our global Embed community to engage and follow the process, as well as support the local engagement that's occurring in terms of making calls, making emails, and doing direct one-to-one advocacy. And that is super powerful, because I think that when doing that work, we are really able to, put our thumb on the needle to weigh it towards our side. Because again, one of our opponent's largest arguments is that caste does not exist in the United States. We've amply proven that because hundreds of people have given testimony. We have shown that with the data. So just the fact that they want to deny that significant discrimination is occurring, it really looks badly on their part. Um, but I think that, again, in the next month and a half, we will probably get to the full Senate vote, and that will be like the next major hurdle. And then the whole process that we've done from going through judiciary into the Senate, we'll have to do again with the Assembly, and the Assembly has 80 people in the process. So you'll get updates from us frequently about this issue. Also, you'll see more and more stories coming out about discrimination in California, because part of this process has meant that we're doing a lot of consistent testimony gathering, and Dalits are continuing to come out of the closet about how much discrimination they faced. But it's an incredible moment because we're watching history in the making. And again, we are not deluded. We don't think that what's happening in California is the only thing that's happening in anti-caste work in the world. But we know that we have an ability to win in California in a way that we may not in other jurisdictions, which is why, all of the California Dalits are putting our hearts and soul into this work. And this is such a really powerful movement because the interfaith aspect of it and the pan South Asianness of it is really remarkable. Aisha Wahab herself is an Afghan and someone of Muslim descent. We have leaders from the Indian American Muslim councils, from Sikh groups, Ravadasyas, Christians, Buddhists, and Muslims, and secular individuals as well. And I think that the broad support that we have is because at the basic piece of it is nobody wants to live in a state with so much discrimination. Nobody wants, places
One, no,
that.
sorry, Tinmay. What is the reason that politicians from entire spectrum, like Republican and Democrats, everybody is supporting this bill? 8-0 is something extraordinary. So how this is happening? Because as far as we know that there are differences between these political parties and all that, but on this issue, everybody is on board. So what can be the reason why this is happening? And another thing, rather that will be my last question. Uh, because caste is a global problem and so many things are happening in different part of the world, including UK, Canada, and Australia, and so different countries. So, what the global Ambedkarite movement can do to support you in terms of ideology, and resources, and all that? So, these are my two questions. Please go ahead.
Oh, so first thing is that I think part of the reason why we have so much bipartisan support is because at the basics, this bill is about civil and human rights. And nobody in California, I'm not going to say this is the case in other states, believes in, wants to have liability for the state where there's severe discrimination. And the cases that have come forward are severe enough that it really gives them a pause about whether or not they're performing their jobs as a government to prevent discrimination. And that can feel pretty shocking to, I'm sure, our listeners in South Asia, as even though we have some of the best laws on the books for caste discrimination is happening all the time because of the impunity. So I think that that's one first piece, is that the testimony gathering and the evidence building and the legal flanking that we're doing internally is doing its job and conveying our case very effectively for us. But the other reason why this is a bipartisan issue is because we've had numerous Dalits participate in Equality Labs' Advocacy Day. And we brought, collaborating with many leaders from the Ravadasya community and every single Ravadasya Sabha in the state, we sent over 70 leaders to the Capitol. to discuss and talk about the caste equity bill. And that was an incredible win, because people learned about the government process and the government learned about Dalits. And they heard people's personal testimonies. We walked people through some of the legal arguments related to caste, and it was amazing, just amazing. And so I think people that might have been on the fence, stopped being on the fence because they heard directly from impacted communities. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that our opponents on this bill want to make it look like they're the impacted community. But, again, much of what they're complaining about is religious discrimination, and that's already covered. Caste is not. So there's just like a simple part of logic and also the law that we really are able to clarify with that in-person advocacy. And I think for many Republican offices, they are used to thinking about caste as a religious freedom issue, because they've heard, from many caste oppressed people, but in part from Dalit Christians, and their experiences of persecution that really kind of speak to their perspectives. So I think that in California, again, this is a really, really simple issue. Discrimination is happening. It's impacting people's opportunities. There's an easy fix, particularly because we're not changing the law, we're clarifying it. And the government already considers caste a protected category, but it has not made it explicit. And there's a long legacy in California to making categories explicit. I think we have like 18 explicitly listed categories. We lead the nation in civil rights history by doing something like that. So it should be a very easy pass. The only reason it's made difficult is because we have opponents fueled by bigotry that are unwilling to let Dalits have freedom. Even away.
Right. Yes. Yes. Mhm. Yes. So, Tanmoy, at this juncture, I would like Maya Kamble to reflect what are the core argument of the opponents, rather those who still want to discriminate. क्या आर्गुमेंट ऑपोजिशन साइड से आ रहा है, अगर आप बताएं उनको क्या आर्ग्यू कर रहे हैं, क्यों उनको ये बिल नहीं चाहिए, एंटी कास्ट बिल से उनको क्या प्रॉब्लम है, ये अगर आप हमें थोड़ा सा बता पाएं तो ये हमारे लिए यूजफुल रहेगा. माया कामली जी, आप हमें अगर सुन पा रही हैं, हेलो, आई थिंक उन तक हमारी बात नहीं पहुंच पा रही है. तो मोटे तौर पर आपने दो जो प्लेयर्स हैं इस पूरे एंटी कास्ट वहाँ पर जो इस समय लेजिस्लेशन जो बनने के प्रोसेस में है, उसमें जो मेजर चीज़ें हैं उसके बारे में आपने जाना है, और कुछ क्वेश्चंस हमारे पास बहुत उस तरह के रेलेवेंट इस समय नहीं हैं. तो एक जो सवाल डॉक्टर संतोष यादव पूछ रहे हैं कि हिंदू संगठन इस बिल को हिंदू फोबिक क्यों कह रहे हैं, क्या वो बहुजन समाज को हिंदू नहीं मानते हैं. तो इस पर जो डिबेट मैं यहाँ पर देख रहा हूँ, वो डिबेट इस तरह से इवॉल्व हो रही है कि अभी तक जो हिंदू एज ए रिलीजियस कैटेगरी जब तक वो थी, तब तक वो यहाँ की माइनॉरिटी कैटेगरी थी, ऑप्रेस्ड और वंचित कैटेगरी के रूप में वो खुद को प्लेस अभी तक कर पा रहे थे. लेकिन अब क्योंकि ये सवाल आ गया है कि हिंदू जो है वो कोई एक मोनोलिथ, एक कैटेगरी नहीं है, उसके अंदर भी ऑप्रेस्ड एंड ऑप्रेसर्स हैं, सो इसकी वजह से एक नया पैराडाइम बन रहा है. मुझे लगता है कि इसकी वजह से वो इसको अपने इंटरेस्ट के खिलाफ मान रहे हैं. और यूएस में जो इंडियंस का आना हुआ है, ये लोग जो आए हैं, वो जो फर्स्ट मूवर एडवांटेज था वो अपर कास्ट या प्रेशर कास्ट के पास था, क्योंकि वो इंडिया में पहले से पढ़े लिखे थे, उनको एजुकेशन तक उनकी एक्सेस थी. तो वो यहाँ पर आए और इसके आने के बाद वो अपने लोगों को लेकर आना, जो इंडिया में एक रिवाज है जो चलता है, सारी कास्ट करती हैं तो अपने लोगों को लेकर आए, तो वो यहाँ पर बहुत बड़े कंपेरेटिवली बड़े नंबर्स पर हैं, और उनके पास रिसोर्सेज भी ज़्यादा हैं, नंबर्स भी ज़्यादा हैं। इसके बावजूद ये बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है कि नंबर्स और रिसोर्सेज के मामले में 10:1 का शायद मुकाबला है। जो सवर्ण जातियों के लोग हैं वो 10 गुना होंगे SC ST OBC के। इसके बावजूद वो लड़ाई हार रहे हैं, और वो इसको कोई ये एक्चुअली एक मोरल लड़ाई है, जिसमें कि जो ओपोनेंट्स हैं, जो कास्ट का डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जारी रखना चाहते हैं, ट्रुथ और शायद वजह से उनकी जो हार हो रही है वो इस वजह से हो रही है। तो इसके अलावा कोई अगर इम्पोर्टेंट सवाल अगर है तो मैं एक बार देख लेता हूँ, और नहीं तो फिर हम लोग अच्छा, एक क्वेश्चन प्रियदर्शनी विनोद का है। इन यूएस हु कैन बी एक्यूज्ड ऑफ कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, एवरीवन और ओनली दोज हु कैरी सो कॉल्ड अपर कास्ट। मुझे लगता है इस बिल का जो ड्राफ्ट मैंने पढ़ा है, जो फाइनल बिल अभी इस समय डिस्कशन में है, जिसको कि जुडिशरी कमेटी ने अप्रूव किया है, वो उसमें अपर कास्ट और लोअर कास्ट, या अपर कास्ट और लोअर कास्ट, ऑपरेसर ऑपरेस्ड, इस तरह से इसमें डिमार्केशंस नहीं है। कोई भी अगर जाति के आधार पर डिस्क्रिमिनेट करता है तो वो इस एंटी कास्ट बिल के एम्बिट में है। सो इट्स फॉर एवरीवन, एंड it's not even religion specific. All the religions are covered, and all actually South Asians and many from African countries are also covered in this bill. So ये कोई किसी रिलीजन के खिलाफ नहीं है, किसी कास्ट के खिलाफ नहीं है। अगर आप हेरिडेटरी कास्ट सिस्टम को फॉलो करते हैं और कास्ट के बेसिस पे किसी को डिस्क्रिमिनेट करते हैं, तो आप इस बिल के दायरे में हैं। तो किसी व्यक्ति के या किसी समुदाय के खिलाफ जो डर रहे हैं, असल में उनको मालूम है कि क्योंकि वो ज़्यादा कास्ट डिस्क्रिमिनेट करते हैं, तो वो उनके फंसने के इसमें चांसेस ज़्यादा होंगे। शायद ये उनके और मुझे लगता है कि कोई और कोई रेलेवेंट क्वेश्चंस नहीं है, तो मुझे लगता है कि मैं इस पॉइंट पर इस स्पेस को आप लोगों की इजाज़त से क्लोज करता हूं। और आगे भी हम लोग इस बारे में और भी, जो अभी तो हमने सिर्फ 2 लोगों को और बुलाया है, और भी लोगों से हमको इनवाइट करके और अपनी बातचीत उन तक पहुंचाएंगे, और उनकी बात हम सीखेंगे। क्वेश्चंस वगैरह जो हैं वो आप अगर भेजेंगे तो हम इसको लगातार इसमें शामिल करेंगे। तो बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आप लोग इतनी रात को भी इस स्पेस से जुड़े और आपने गौर से बात सुनी।